Yo guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be deconstructing one of 6IX9INE's latest records, TUTU, and this is off his most recent album, Tattle Tales. Of course, we're going to be using FL Studio for this deconstruction, so with that being said, let's go ahead and dive straight into this video. Alright, so as you can see, we are in a brand new session of FL Studio, and we're working at a BPM of 120. Now, the first thing that we're going to want to do is work on that main melody that plays throughout the entire beat. It's a really simple melody, and I'm just going to go ahead and walk you guys through it. So the first thing that we're going to do is load up Purity for that kind of flute mallet sound that you hear in the main melody. And I'm actually going to go ahead and grab a preset that I've already designed. So here is what the preset sounds like. If we turn off some of these sounds here, you can see we started off with a pan flute. Then we added a glockenspiel to add that initial impact. You can see now it sounds more like a mallet. And then these last two sounds kind of just tie everything together. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the actual melody. We're gonna go ahead and open up the piano roll and pencil in the notes for this melody here. And this little pattern kind of repeats itself throughout the entire beat, so we're just gonna duplicate that over. Pretty straightforward, however, there's a few things that we can do to kind of humanize the way that this melody sounds. So that's a really great start. We can go ahead and move on to the mixer. First thing I'm gonna do is grab this plugin called Saturn by FabFilter. I'm gonna go ahead and turn down some of the highs here. You can also take out some of the low end. And I like using the drive knob just to add some saturation to the sound. I'm gonna finish off this melody with a ton of reverb. And that will finish up the main melody of the beat. Now, it's important to note that when the beat actually drops, the main melody shifts up an entire octave. So we're just gonna copy the pattern one more time, make it unique, and just shift it up an octave. But let's go ahead and move on to the next sound that you hear in the beat, which is kind of like an analog Moog kind of bass. And for this, it's gonna be pretty simple. We're just gonna go ahead and go into Omnisphere. So the preset for this sound is called Growler Moog Bass. But let's go ahead and pencil in the melody for this sound. And that right there is perfect. So we can move on to one more sound that you hear right before the beat drops, and it's kind of like a flute little melody that plays. For this, once again, we're gonna go ahead and go with Purity, so I'm gonna open that up. This is good so far. We pretty much have all of the intro sounds out of the way. So now we can move on to the 808, the drums, and one other melody that comes in during the drop of the beat. This sound here is actually, I believe, the last counter melody that you hear in this beat, and it's kind of like an ambient bell sound with a ton of reverb on it. We're gonna go ahead and open up Korg Mono Poly. You can find it in the synth soft category. It's the first one. And it's pretty much gonna work perfectly for the sound that we're trying to achieve. So let's just loop this section here and pencil in the notes for this counter melody. Okay, so here we have the finished counter melody. Pretty simple, nothing crazy, but it sounds like the flute is a little too loud, so we're just gonna really quickly mix these two melodies together. So now that we have that out of the way, usually I would go straight into the clap and all the rest of the drums, but in order to really feel the vibe of this beat, I think we're actually gonna go into the 808, and that's really gonna kind of set the tone that you feel in the original record. Now, before we get into the drums, all these drum sounds you can find in my personal drum kit, which is in the description, as well as the comment section down below. So if you need any of these drum sounds, make sure to go check that out. But let's go ahead and dive into the 808 pattern of this beat. So I'm gonna go into my drum kit and grab 808.5. And that is pretty much the 808 pattern. Let's go ahead and move on to the next sound, which will be our clap. There's also an open hi-hat that plays at the start of every beat, so let's go ahead and drag that in. Moving on, let's go ahead and throw down the hi-hat pattern. And this last kind of percussive element that we're going to want to work on is this chorusy cymbal that you kind of hear playing alongside the hi-hats. Now, to give it that chorusy effect, we're going to open up a stock FL Studio plugin, and this one is going to be Fruity Phaser. So now that we have all these drums out of the way, there's just a few different variations that we're going to want to account for. As you saw earlier, we duplicated the pattern and shifted up an octave because that's what was done in the original record. And on top of that, there's a hi-hat variation and a sub bass that replace the 808 in the beat. So real quickly, I'm going to open up this unique hi-hat pattern and just get those extra rolls that come in towards the middle of the beat. And now that we have that out of the way, there's just two things that we want to finish up. We have a sub bass that comes in and replaces the 808. So for that, we're gonna go ahead and open up Serum. I went ahead and created a custom sub bass that sounds pretty similar to the one that you hear. And the last thing that we have to finish off this beat is going to be our kick sample. So once again, let's set down a new pattern, and I'm going to grab kick 1 from my drum kit. And this pattern pretty much repeats itself, so we'll just duplicate it over. And before I move on, I just want to mix the sub and the kick together a little bit better. So that should be every sound in the original 6IX9INE record. So why don't we go ahead and start from the beginning and take a listen to the final product. And that is pretty much it. That is TUTU by 6IX9INE recreated in FL Studio 12. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please feel free to leave a like and a comment letting me know what you thought. As always, if you need any of these drum sounds, you can find them at my website, paulkits.com, so make sure to go check that out if you need any of these sounds. Other than that, guys, that's pretty much going to be it for me today, so thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon.